There are a lot of changes and disruptions that are happening right now in the market. And today I'm bringing to you a story from a marketing agency that was deeply focused in SEO, and they transformed their company to really be a results-based, outcome-oriented agency. It was not an easy transition. They share all about it, but they have some incredible results to boast from this. And ultimately, they more than doubled their company. They've generated a much more profitable growth. And ultimately, their pricing jumped from $5,000 to $7,000 to about $30,000 to $80,000, where $80,000 is really on a lower middle range starting point for their services. They're telling you the whole story and how it ultimately transformed their company. Listen in and enjoy the story from Alex. All right, Alex, would you mind just saying your name and your business name?
Yeah, my name is Alex Olivero. I'm the co-founder and director of growth at Curio Digital.
Thanks. So Alex, just help me understand, like, you've been on quite a journey over the past 18 months or so. Has it been about 18 months?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
I used my daughter's birth as a benchmark, and I know Annie was in our operations manager like right around when she was born. So that was about halfway in there. So I think
Right.
that fits.
Can you tell me about when you were looking at making a change?
Yeah, I think we were at the point where Jamie, my co-founder, and I couldn't continue to grow the business without support from our staff. And letting that go and allowing our team to actually execute and run projects without us was terrifying. It was absolutely the hardest thing I think for both of us to let go and imagine a project running without Jamie and I. And obviously we can't scale or grow doing that. And so we needed some help to figure out how do we do this and how do we do it right so we don't tank our business. That's what we were most scared of, is we're going to let go and then things are going to go awry. We're going to lose all our clients and then we're going to, end up in the poorhouse. So we talked a lot about finding a coach. Jamie had read your book, and that's when we got in contact. It was very scary at first, and after meeting with you, it made me feel like we weren't the only ones in this situation ever, which is like obvious, but like it kind of feels like that sometimes.
Sure.
It feels like we're inept for some reason, and like everyone else gets it and we just don't. And you made us feel like, okay, this is common and there's a process to it. It's not magic. You don't have to have some magic CEO bone in your body that makes you good at this stuff. So that's kind of where we were when we found you.
Got it. So what have you tried before that worked or didn't work?
What we tried to do before was we tried to get more people on the team to manage the day-to-day client activity. So they were more almost obstacles for the client to have to go through to get to Jamie and I, which we thought that would help solve a lot of our issues, where if we had like an intermediary that was kind of managing the account and could answer some questions, then Jamie and I could focus on the work. Well, that wasn't accurate. And then the people who were doing that needed management. And so we had no layer in between Jamie and I for training and helping the people we brought on to help manage the accounts. So it ended up being almost more work for us than actually alleviating any of that stress. And so it just ended up causing kind of like new headaches instead of less headaches.
Sure. Yeah. Did you find that your quality went down when you did that? Or like the
No,
client experience?
I actually feel like our quality didn't go down because Jamie and I were willing to just absolutely work as many hours as needed to make it happen, which
I see.
started to just weigh on both of like our home lives. And then I was about to have a baby, which I think that was one of the big catalysts too with talking to you, is like, Alex is going to go away for like 2, 3, 4 weeks. I think I went away for 6 weeks actually. Going away for 6 weeks. This can't continue this way. We kind of just white-knuckled it for as long as we possibly could. So client work stayed the same, but we just were killing ourselves.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Made the biggest difference for your team.
The biggest difference for our team was the operations manager. I think like that when we initially did the irresistible offer, and that was massively helpful. And it's hard. It's 1A and 1B, but I would say 1A. It added that buffer, and it added that like layer where we could continue to scale and grow without the constant pressure of having to train and having to manage SOPs and having to manage kind of the overall finance piece, all these different pieces that were just chipping away at our day to day where we could add value. It was just all these little things kept chipping away at it. And as we scaled, even if we added more people, it didn't actually help because we had no one operating that people. So the roadmap process, the 90-day process, and bringing in the operations and pushing us to bring in an operations manager, which my mentality was you would need an operations manager so you're much larger. I always kind of thought big companies have operations managers. Like a company of like 10, 15 people doesn't need one of those. You and your team kind of changed my mindset around that and then helped train that person. And it was great because now she manages everybody on the team and plays a pivotal role in maneuvering things and getting some of those internal tasks done. And all the things that were chipping away at her day kind of went away when she was brought on and trained. One other thing was the 90-day roadmaps. I would say that was another super valuable thing. We make those for every one of our employees now. Seeing that one for the operations manager and getting them one kind of like, and how well that worked, we now instigate that for every person that walks in. And I feel like that helps with so much with training. We can kind of sit back a little bit and let them kind of go through that process and then check in instead of having daily shadow. We used to have daily shadowing sessions for an hour and a half for like weeks, 3 weeks, like so you can imagine how hard that is on Jamie and I. The 90-day roadmap changed that.
So you used to have a daily 90-minute training sessions versus the 90-day roadmap. So then what was it that made the difference with that roadmap?
It made us have to sit back and think like, where is this person most valuable? And what we would do now is when we're hiring someone and we're thinking like, okay, we like this person, we think about their 90-day roadmap before we even hire them. Because we're like, do they fit? Do we just like them because of their attitude and their skill set? Or does their skill set actually match the job description that we want them to do and what we want them to do in those first 90 days? And so we'll almost map that 90-day plan out with the person we're thinking of hiring in mind and check how valuable that 90 days would be to us with that person in place. And if that does fit the role we needed and they solve the problems that we needed solved, it makes sense. So it's almost used as like a litmus test for hiring as well as it is, then they know what their goals are. Like they know what they're looking to achieve, not just what their job description or their role says, but like actually what would bring value to the agency. And they can see the 90-day, like they can see the end. So even if their steps aren't exactly to get to whatever that last like 90-day piece, they understand that like they're going to execute on that. So they're learning, they're trying to kind of get to the point where when they hit that 90 days, they're able to achieve what is that lower level task. So and that's one of those things where like we would never be able to do that if we were day-to-day training somebody, or we were like, they're not thinking that far ahead. They're just thinking about what's the next meeting, what do I have to do for the next call with Alex or Jamie. That's why it was just really, really valuable in those two aspects.
So it sounds like what you're describing is it went from a very reactive state that it required 8 hours a week of training or so, up to a point where they were actually more self-directed and they could lead themselves and be more autonomous.
Yes. Yeah. We just brought somebody in actually, and I've only talked to them twice in Slack since they started, and I get worried. I'm like, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? And then I look at their 90-day roadmap and I can go, oh, they've already done like 5 of the things that they had to do out of the 7 that were in the first 30 days. Like they're rocking and rolling. And so it's an immediate way to cross-check too, sanity check, because like I don't want to hear from somebody 10 times a day. But I was so used to that if I'm not hearing from them, then like they're not doing anything. It's like, that's not true anymore. Like I'm not hearing from them because they're actually doing something versus the other way around. So that's helped a ton.
That's amazing. Well, and I think that's a really great distinction that you put there, because when you're hiring more people, it's oftentimes, it's going to add more work and labor for you to actually manage that person and set them up for success. That's unavoidable, right? Like if you don't do that, then it's going to cost you more time. But I think you just laid out how it requires a lot less time if you set them up the right way and do a little bit of work up front, but then you have something to clearly manage them too.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not that much work up. What's so interesting is I always thought that would take a long time, but like 2 hours shadowing a day or 2 hours putting together a 90-day roadmap, and then 90 days I don't have to shadow every single day. It's a lot better. I like it a lot
So
better.
about how many hours would you say that saves you in training then when you bring on someone new?
I mean, 90 hours. Like it saves me from doing a ridiculous amount, because I'm not always doing even the right thing during the shadowings. Like I'm not
Right.
doing the right thing every single day, like to what their role should be. So they're shadowing me when I'm doing unhelpful work. The easy way for me to do it is just tie it in 90 days, 90 hours. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of time.
Yeah, that is a lot of time. And you know what we were mentioning too about going on and training in that way. I can't tell you how often that we see managers get trained that way, where they're just following them, shadowing them for 90 days before any work is even done. You don't even know if this is the right person if you're just shadowing. You're actually training them on learned helplessness.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I'm not the best example to be set. Like, I run a business for a reason, and it's because I couldn't work with other people. Like, I couldn't, like, follow other people's rules. So it's not good when you're trying to follow the way I do things when the way I do things is probably wrong. And, like, the 90 days makes me think critically about the right way to do something, and us being able to set the what and the why and letting them figure out the how and then who to do it with. So it's like breaking those two pieces up so they don't feel like they're being micromanaged, but it lets them kind of use their skill set, which is usually a lot better at managing themselves than me managing them. Yeah. And it leads to much better results. And I think the level of ownership they have over their 90-day roadmap is a lot better than the ownership they would have sitting with me, watching me do something and then trying to just mimic me doing it.
Right.
Another huge benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Mentioned saved you 90 hours. And I know that you have definitely invested that back in growth, right? And focusing on growing the company. So I'd like to kind of transition to talk about that. Like, how has the company grown?
The company has probably, since we initially started in the 18 months ago, we were probably doing 450,000 annually. And then after the irresistible offer going into 2025, we're probably at relatively around 650. And we ended last year pushing over 1 million. So there's been clear incremental growth, and that growth has been a doubling effect over and over. It'd be exponential comparatively from like when we started the year before that to this to now. Is that going to continue? I hope so. It's kind of scary to think about that continuing. Once we figured out the irresistible offer, we figured out market fit. That was a huge unlock. Boom. Then we figured out operations and getting an operation manager in, and then figuring out how to train people and how to grow people. And then that was a big unlock, and then that doubled. And so it's just been a consistent leveling up each time.
Love that. That's a really great way to describe that. So essentially, to talk about the irresistible offer, would you say that has been pivotal and foundational to making this all work?
Yeah, we were kind of just selling what the client wanted. They came to us wanting a website redesign, for example. They came to us wanting development support. And we were like, yippee, let's do it. And then they dictated the structure of it. They dictated the timeline of it. They dictated the results they wanted. And we were put in a position where we were just turning into their hands. They were just puppet masters, and we were just doing what they asked. And number one, they didn't get the best outcome because we weren't being a true consultant to them. And number two, we weren't really happy because we weren't really critically thinking about anything, and it felt like when we gave ideas, we were almost overstepping. So what the irresistible offer did is it made us think about like, what outcome do we want for this client? What success conditions do they need? And then what is like the timeline and roadmap for getting them there? And so when a client would come to us saying they wanted a redesign, but we noticed that they had a bunch of issues with their branding, or we could tie it to the irresistible offer, sell the irresistible offer as a whole, usually upsell it, and give them the confidence that working with us isn't just working with a team that you're going to direct. It's working with a team that's going to be your partner. And so that mindset shift kind of helped from a sales side start to like actually qualify the things we were doing to a client before they even signed on. It changed the way they saw us too. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. They trusted us way more. which led to long term. So like all of our full builds, which are our website redesign projects, are project based. So that was part of the irresistible offer piece that leads into the MRR and the growth. So that's kind of like, that's that piece that they need. And we found a way to like bake that in as the irresistible offer, still giving them what they want, but then shifting their mindset around that and then continuing on with them. We haven't lost a single growth client. So growth,
Wow.
I would say our growth system is the irresistible offer in the whole. The low-hanging fruit offer, which I think we talked about previously, was actually a full redesign, which sometimes can be really expensive. So even the low-hanging fruit is actually the thing they want, which is the carrot. And so we can dangle that in. They really love that. We do an amazing job there, and we move them into the growth system, which is the irresistible offer. And that's where we can really be beneficial to them. And that's where they stick with us for years.
So how's that impacted the pricing or like your client lifetime value?
We've been able to incrementally raise our prices, especially on full builds. We used to do full website redesigns for $5,000 to $7,000. Like a $15,000 website redesign was huge. When we started working with you and the team, we upped our pricing to like 30, which was amazing. We were like, oh my God. Our highest redesign has been 80,000 as of late. And even that is undervaluing because it's a phase one. So we break out our sites in phases now so that we can move into the growth system a lot quicker. So a phase one is 80,000 for that website redesign, and then it's moving into the growth system. And that's a very good thing for that client. And that's because they understand the ROI that's going to come from this now, and their site gets up faster. And that's all because of how we laid out that irresistible offer and how we kind of like road mapped what we were giving them instead of just reacting to what they wanted.
So you went from 5,000 to 7,000 to 30,000, then to 80,000. You said that's on the low end. So what's on the high end now for a growth program and like the combined?
Our growth system is on average cost between $6,500 a month and $1,000 a month. So on the high end, if you're taking annualized, it's pushing $44,000 a year. Like that's kind of how the actual redesign project, we actually want to keep the redesign project as low as we can. Like with still being valuable and still having profit margin that like fits, because we really want to move them into the growth system. So we know the value of their site isn't us spending 3 months building it. The value of their site is iterating and continue to grow and analyzing their site. So get them into the irresistible offer, the growth system, so that we can kind of make sure that we're testing and looping and they can get a true ROI on their site. So we want to get them through that redesign process as quickly as possible, but really, really strong foundation so we can move them in. And we wouldn't even have figured that out. That was all because we road mapped the irresistible offer. Like that was because when we did the irresistible offer and we saw the steps that they needed to take, we had to come to the realization that like, does the value come from the site rebuild, or does the value come from us continuing to iterate and analyzing the site and optimizing the site? And it's like, that's where it comes from. Because if we just let our hands go and then the site just sits there, it's not going to do much. You have to continue the content wheel, and you have to continue growing, and you have to continue testing for our market specifically, because we're in B2B SaaS. So that's like the SaaS market doesn't stand still. You have to constantly be pumping out content to get organic going. So it's uniquely positioned to that market. And it works great.
Had you tried to sell that in the past to your clients and then just saying, I don't have the budget for it? Or had you tried that before?
No, the growth system was brand new. So what we did before was it was basically site care, which is maintenance. So what we had done before is just sell hourly packages, which were fine, but the packages run out and then the client's done. And the client then needs to renegotiate that and is constantly having to go back to their ownership or they're the CEO and they need to constantly be making that decision to keep going. And where the growth system is a road mapped system that is constantly running, that they don't have to think about that. So we never did the growth system before. That was a brand new service offering based on the irresistible offer.
So was that a bit of a stretch for you? Because you come in and you're designing websites and you're doing websites and maintenance. So did it feel like there were some additional skills that you didn't know if you had?
Yes. We didn't even do CRO. Like Jamie basically spent, my co-founder Jamie, who's our director of strategy, basically spent a month doing nothing but focusing on CRO and growth. That's all she did for like an entire month. She sat back. I ran every project, almost lost my mind, and ran every single project. And all she focused on 100% was becoming a strategist for a month. And then once we had that base, then she was able to start to engage in the growth system. Again, maybe not the smartest move, but we worked backwards. So we had to figure out what our clients needed to be our client for multiple years. How can we actually retain a client versus just create a website and just move on? And the way to do that was continue to make them money. So in order to figure out what's best for them, we had to think of what skill sets do we need to improve on to do that. So that's kind of like why we worked backwards into that, because the way the irresistible offer was organized, it didn't make sense to even continue to do it the way we were, because we couldn't point to any ROI other than like, hopefully your brand looks better and maybe that improves your sales. Like, but we don't have any insight into that. So we had to adjust.
Okay, so that you said maybe that was dumb. It's absolutely not dumb. It was actually a very courageous move. What you did is to say, how can we be relevant? Has that been a good return on investment? I mean, that was a considerable investment that you chose to say, how can we drive ROI for this client? We don't know how to drive ROI for this client yet, and we want to. Has that been a good investment for you in learning?
Our whole company is based on that now.
Well, because you went from charging $5,000 to $7,000 for most of your services to now being up to $144,000 for a year. I mean, not all of your clients are at that, but that's incredibly impressive. I want to just acknowledge you for the courage that took. I know how difficult that is. The most difficult part of that is making a choice to do it. That's what I've seen. Is that how it was for you too, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't. You want to stick in your comfort zone. It was very uncomfortable. It was like, is this going to work? Because it was a big time investment, and if it just didn't work, and we've done things that didn't work before, and it really sucks. But now we had mouths to feed. Like, we had employees who like relied on us not to screw it up. So if we took a risk that didn't work out, it's not just us on the line anymore. It's all the people we work with. You know, we're a small team and we're close with everybody. We're not silent partners like day-to-day founders. We wanted to make sure that we were going in the right direction for them, so it was very scary. But it happened pretty quick. Knock on wood, that shift in sales calls, like you could see it in the client's face. Like that's what they wanted to hear. They wanted to hear like, I'm not just throwing money out on a wish. I'm making a smart business decision. And I feel confident in this team that they'll deliver.
Well, so I remember the 90-day cohort that you were involved in. I remember you sharing that your accountant called up and said, congratulations on your highest. Did you guys double it in the 90 days or something?
I
remember something like that.
Yeah, my TAC guy said, like, congratulations for what? It's weird. We didn't even really pay attention. And also, we were very naive and not like thinking about even what that meant as an S Corp, what that meant for us. And then we realized very quickly what that meant for us. So then that was a whole nice fun figure out like what to do with all of it now. But we were in pure growth mode. So we were going to keep everything into the business. We weren't even kind of thinking about that. So we said congrats. I'm like, for what? Like it didn't make any sense. And then you kind of sit back and think about it, and then it opens up the idea like, okay, that worked. Now, how do we compound this over the next year? How do we keep this going? Like, how do we continue to execute on it? And that's kind of like where we're at now a little bit.
Something I wanted to point out on this too is that this was a leap of faith for you, right? It sounded like you were willing to take the leap of faith because you guys were pushed into the corner and you were working crazy amount of hours and it was totally unsustainable. You had a baby on the way that was like, this isn't going to work continuing this way.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good, baby's a good motivator to get your life together a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you were able to take a good paternity leave for that. And what shift and what change that you actually did here, this is what agencies need to be doing right now. Because could you imagine what the business would be like right now if you're trying to sell what you were selling 18 months ago with AI, how it is? How would that have impacted your business?
We would be out of business. Being an execution partner, we're continuing to add more services to continue to go up market, continue to get better at those services, continue to hire employees that aren't order takers, but true consultants and continue to grow that. If we didn't go this direction, would just be volume. The volume would continue to get less and less. It sounds bad, but like our work is becoming less and less respected as these systems come in for the lowest common denominator to be able to create what looks to be more premium than it actually is. And so as that becomes better, internal marketing teams continue to try to keep things in-house. So if we're a volume game, then the volume we're going after is these teams that actually just want this stuff in-house and it's not as valued. It's just a race to the bottom. So without this kind of service offering and going in this direction, that's what we'd be doing right now. Like, we would just be at a race to get to as cheap as we possibly can, which isn't the most rewarding thing in the world to do, especially when you're on like the art side and like want to do quality work and you basically can't, or your business is unprofitable. It sucks. So I don't think that was really an option for us anyway. I think we would have had to close up shop probably if that was our only option.
I really appreciate you sharing this and being open and vulnerable about that, because there are a lot of companies that were like where you guys were at. And you guys were a great company at the time. So I'm not saying that, but it's just the market has changed, and what the market values is just not the same thing as it was 18 months ago. So I know you were doing some business development before this. You'd actually been working with someone on some business development, but how did the irresistible offer impact what you were doing there on business development?
Well, it gave me something to sell. It gave me something to like market and sell. So we drink our own Kool-Aid and are updating our website again. We're always updating and adding content and doing that. But I think like having that irresistible offer was that we were able to work backwards on content, what to write on our site, how to frame our services, and then also how to market ourselves, how to build decks for our sales processes, for outbound, what kind of messaging we wanted to say for outbound. So if you take it and acts as almost like a mini methodology to your company, you can expand that and extend it to many different marketing channels. So from a business development side, that's kind of what we did. We deconstructed it and kind of used pieces of it all over the place. Used the results, used the ROI piece, like used some of the messaging around how we do it, kind of used the framing of it, all of that we kind of used in many different places.
Yeah, got it. That makes sense. Well, what would you say to someone who is in a situation right now where they know they need to pivot? Maybe they're scared to, because what they have been doing has still been working, but they're maybe scared to go into this next place, what you guys have done. What would you say to them?
I would tell them pretty much what you told us, which was you need to understand what you do and who you do it for and what makes them money, and work backwards from that. Like, you need to figure out what's the outcome that your target market wants. Figure out your target market first. I think we didn't even know. You helped us figure out our target market. I would parrot a lot of the things that you told us to kind of get us to that point. And I think it is an exponential, it's a snowball going down a hill once you figure those things out. Once you kind of get that piece of it, then you're on a ride. And it's a bumpy ride. It's not like the smoothest ride in the world. Your team helped us train our operations manager, give our operations manager the tools that they need, pushed us forward. A lot of it's accountability. You kept us accountable. So if I'd stay up late to do them, I did them. And it's kind of easy to do that when no one's holding you accountable. So accountability is like a really big part of it. I would tell them, I would parrot a lot of those things and just understand that. And then once you get rolling, like, hold on, because it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is work, but was it a lot of work doing what you were doing before?
Yes, it's a lot of work for a lot less of a reward. And so when I say like it's a lot of work, I don't mean that as a bad thing. That's what you want. Like, the reason I even started a company was because I was in the industry for like 8-9 years. And I was still doing emails here and there, like designing emails. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I still doing this for like all these agencies? Like, why am I freelancing? So I feel like I'm just wasting my time. And so doing work that you want to do for yourself to grow something that like your name's on is great. And doing that feels a lot better. Putting in that effort for yourself is amazing. And having someone guide you in the right direction so you're actually putting your effort in the right places, it's invaluable. And then it makes the work great. I could work all day. I know I'm going in the right direction and I'm doing it for myself. And of course your team and your partners or whoever you have with you, and you're bringing them along with. It's awesome. That's a lot to say to somebody, but that's what I would say.
Well, but that's the thing is that people are looking at, what do I do next? AI is disrupting their industry tremendously, especially in the digital world. It's being tremendously disrupted. It seems to me like you guys got in on such a perfect timing, because you started making these changes right before the disruption really started showing up.
Yeah, we got a little ahead of the game. That would have been rough. We had some irons in the fire, like right as that stuff started to shift. And it actually helped us a lot early on. It's been disruptive recently. It's just new challenges. It's not bad or good. It's just a different way to think. The speed is the hardest thing. You just have to continue to offer clients value. And there's no substitute for like putting in effort, and people in marketing, people notice the effort you put in. Your clients notice the effort you put in. So AI makes things easier, but it makes things easier to do more. It doesn't make you work less. It just makes you work better. I think that's the big thing, that if you're trying to not do anything all day and AI is going to do it all for you and you're going to schedule it out, that's probably the bad mindset to have. But if you think, oh my God, I can do 10 times better, more valuable work for my client with AI, I can produce dashboards for them to see, I can give them more with what resources I have currently. Awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's the right approach. And we would have gone the other way if we were racing to the bottom. We would have just tried to do more with less. And now we're actually trying to like improve our clients' businesses with it.
Okay, that is a really big distinction there, because that's what I think a lot of agencies are doing right now. Is they're learning AI so that they can be able to get the output out with cheaper, faster, and it's just more.
Yeah. Well, think about it this way. If you're doing it and you figured it out quickly, everyone figured it out quickly. So you're not going to be any different. Like, you're going to be just all in the same. And if you're in marketing specifically, one of the most important things is to stand out and get attention. Well, if everyone's doing the same thing and everyone's using the same tools and everyone's pumping in the same prompts and the same stuff, everyone's going to look the same. And all the messaging is going to be the same. It's all going to sound the same. So it's great that it can help you, but it's like you still have to differentiate yourself, and that still takes work. So it's kind of like from the marketing end, all the people kind of forgot rules, like there were what the marketing rules are. It's like, be different, stand out, get attention, speak directly to your audience. And then AI comes out and they're like, I'm going to use it to sound exactly like everybody else and have it write everything for me. There is a smart way to use it, especially internal workflows. Like, it's amazing. I scheduled things to look through Slack and look through Notion and take everything that my team is doing, combine into a dashboard, so I know like what clients are happy, for me to see like what's the sentiment happening on all of our calls and all of our Slack. And if it's good, then I'm happy. If it's not, what do I have to address? And that's a great place for it. But having it do your work for you is probably not the best thing that you can do.
I just wanted to point something out. You're looking at this from the very top of your business, and you're able to do that because you're not the one in there running the business every day.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned about ROI. You've mentioned about delivering bigger results. I'd love for you to share, what kind of results do you do for these B2B? Is it B2B SaaS? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, B2B SaaS, specifically right now, with the world with SaaS being disruptive, we're still going after SaaS, but we might be a little more general to B2B. But some of the results we get on our full build launches, number one, it's just a brand that they're proud of. So a lot of the results that come from the sites we rebuild before the growth system are just our clients feeling confident enough to post things on LinkedIn and actually do the content. So that's like one of the weird intangible ones that I've seen happen that boosts crazy results. But we'll pull 3x conversions after 90 days. That's always our goal. If we can 3x the amount of conversions you get into your sales pipeline, the way we calculate ROI is if we're averaging around 3x conversions, and conversions are new clients into your pipeline. So that means form fills to book a strategy call, form fills to book a demo, form fills to book a intro call, whatever that is. And we mainly focus on service-led versus product-led. So service-led, you have to get on a call with them. So because of that, if that's 3x and we're looking at a 20% close rate and your annual cost per client is like, a return per client is $50,000, then you just hopefully, as long as your sales team can keep up, would close that amount in additional ROI. And so what's that worth? What's that worth when you can take your site and actually turn it into a growth engine?
Yeah.
How much are you closing? So we want to figure all that out up front, and having those conversations, like what's your close rate? Normal web design and development agencies aren't asking what your sales team is doing. And they aren't asking like, where are your close rates? Let's take a look at your analytics and let's actually break down and track while we're building what you're currently doing so that we can then continue to monitor and grow that. I'm very focused on brand from a UX side, but like brand only takes you so far. The strategy side is what really brings in business. The brand is a long-term play. Conversion rate is a short-term gain, but also when it's done well, it's a long-term solution to a lot of those sales problems. Every client's different, but that's kind of like always our North Star, what we're shooting for, 3x in 90 days.
3X in 90 days. This is the trajectory I see with a lot of irresistible offers, where you take it to this one level. You took it up to 5K to 5 to 7K to 30,000. That was the next level, and the next level to 80, and the next level. So as you're doing this, you're going to get better and better case studies as you're documenting that, right? The ROI that you're able to promise right now, and say, I say promises, of course, that's based on success conditions and all that, right? But your brand promise being around that. It's around tripling your conversions. Now, you have documented case studies over the next year. You're gonna see millions of dollars of added growth. That's going to allow you to make sales even faster. You're just going to have tighter and tighter positioning. Like this is the flywheel that I know you're on. You're continuing on that trajectory. So congratulations.
Yep, thank you. It was a long 18 months, but there was a lot happening. But yeah, I feel like we're on the right path, and you and your team helped us you directed us in the right path, and then held our hand kind of through that path until we were ready to start running. Took us a little while to start running, but eventually we got confident enough to start moving down that path though, in the right direction.
Yeah. And I guess everybody gets to decide what does till you get running mean. Because I mean, you guys doubled in 90 days. I'd say that might be running pretty quick. I want to last thing, I just really acknowledge you for putting real tangible results first and foremost. I know that was a challenging transition, and you guys did it. And now like your business is growing, and you're really the top % of your market now. So I want to just acknowledge you. Thanks for showing what's possible with this process.
Thanks, Mandy. I appreciate it. And thank you and your team for your help. It was awesome. Definitely couldn't have done it without you, and definitely couldn't have done it without getting our operations manager in place, because it would have been a nightmare otherwise.
Appreciate that.